Welcome to The Global Girlfriend.
Shall we book a trip to New York City?
Yep. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Global Girlfriend podcast. We are so excited to have you back with us today. We have a super interesting episode ahead, and we have a very special guest with us here today. We are going to talk about navigating and exploring the world with a disability, and we are so thankful. We have Michelle Steiner here today. She is a disability advocate, a writer, a photographer, a paraeducator, and her work has appeared in the Mighty, World Gathering, Dyscalculia blog, and more. We are so thankful for you to being here to share your story with us today. Everybody, welcome Michelle. Hi, Michelle.
Hey, Michelle.
Hi. Hello.
So, welcome so much to the Global Girlfriend. We're so thankful that you want to share your story with us today. Maybe we can start off. You can tell us maybe a little bit about yourself, your story, and how travel has played into your overall journey.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I'm so excited to have this conversation. Well, my name is Michelle Steiner. I live in Pennsylvania with my husband Ron and our two cats, Jack and Sparrow. And you might see them make an appearance on here. I am a writer, speaker, and photographer. I have a blog called Michelle's Mission where I write about my life with a learning disability. And I also work in a school with students who have disabilities as well as a teacher's aide. And I find it very rewarding to be able to work with them and help others with disabilities. My experience with a learning disability was whenever I was in kindergarten. I was first diagnosed. My teacher noticed I was really struggling in the classroom to be able to write my name, to count, and tie my shoes, and do anything math related. So she suggested that I get tested for having a learning disability. And sure enough, I do have one. They did not give it a specific name at that point, but they knew that I was not going to be a mathematician by the time I was 5 or 6 years old. And my years of I had to repeat kindergarten, and I began to receive specialty instruction and accommodations. And it was my school years were very difficult for me, socially and academically. Academically, I struggled to learn in the classroom. Socially, everybody knew that I went to learning support for accommodations, and I went there to have a test read to me, or I went there to even have class. And then in the classroom, my peers could see that I was really struggling to learn, and that was difficult as well. So I quickly got labeled the outcast. And one of the really neat things, though, is when I went through school, it got a lot easier for me academically. I was in all regular ed classes except for math, and I was doing really well. But socially, it was got a lot harder for me. There was a lot of the peer groups became more defined, and I just didn't fit in with anybody. And I found a group outside of our school district that was an arts group, and I started hanging out with them. And I got some acceptance, and I found other peers, and that encouraged me to branch out to another group. It's my writing group, and people were just a couple years older than I was, and uh, it was so amazing because they got to not only see me grow as a writer, but as a person. And 20 some years later, we still meet once a month to talk about our writing.
That's
And
awesome.
yes.
That's
And they were one of the,
amazing.
and that was the first trip that I took was to New York City. And that was the first trip I ever took without my family. And that's always just so memorable because they went there all those years, and I got to share that. So that was my first trip. So that's one of the memorable things about that. And they really encouraged me to write about having a disability, but I said, "Oh no, that's too personal. I don't want to talk about that." And I put that on the shelf for a number of years. And I also had people that really tried to limit me. I had a learning support teacher who said, "I don't think you can go to college because of your math disability," and suggested a trade school, even though nothing interested me. I had a psychiatrist who told me I wouldn't make it past community college. And I still went. I still went to community college, and I faced more stigma. I had people that told me that um, yeah, I would have limited job choices when I graduated, and that disability accommodations were cheating. But I was able to make it through. I didn't do well, but I made it through. And after college, I got it. I was able to move out on my own, which I really like because I'm not able to drive because of my disability, and I love living in a central location and having some temp jobs. But I still really struggled. I just really wondered, well, where is my life going to go? And I always wanted than more for myself. And I had to move back in with my parents for financial reasons. And that was the time I decided, well, I'm going to go back to university. And this time I found a program that had the least amount of math and science possible. It had
Mhm.
disability accommodations, and I used them. I had a note taker, I had extended test time, and I advocated for myself. And that was really important to be able to do that. And I made Dean's List for a semester, and I was able to graduate with a bachelor's degree despite being told I couldn't do it. Um, I also met my husband during this time, and we got married. And I once I met him, we started to travel to more places, and I thought that was really interesting. That's one of my favorite things my husband and I love to do, is to be able to travel. And we also at that time bought a house, and I got diagnosed with limited hand dexterity, and I could not open up our front door. And I was so frustrated that I wrote an article on the Mighty about that. I finally got that courage, and I had such a great response that encouraged me to write other articles for them and to start my own blog, Michelle's Mission, where I write about my life with a disability and I feature my photography. I'm not able to drive, but people will tell me, well, you bring out the details in a flower that I miss. And when I'm on my walks, I start noticing things. And if I was driving, those are things that I would miss. So I take pictures of flowers and other things that I see, and I get a
Mhm.
chance to post them on my blog. And I also had my very first solo trip to a Down syndrome convention in Florida a few years ago. And I never traveled by myself, but I researched programs such as a flight ambassador and the Hidden Sunflower program. And that made that trip possible for me. And that's just one of the things with having a disability. I don't let that stop me from going out and exploring the world because life is just too short.
Oh, yeah. Well, goodness, thank you so much for, just giving us this recap of your life. And, it's
Mhm.
lovely to hear it and just really inspiring to hear about your journey. I feel like through what you were just saying, I had so many questions. But I guess just but just thinking from what you just said. So you went to this convention in Florida.
Mhm.
And so have you been able to do other trips that were very focused on, different, conventions or activities to do with disabilities?
I had one before the pandemic started. I can remember I went to Philadelphia for a women's empowerment mixer, and I spoke on
Awesome.
having a learning disability. And that was my first trip out in that region, and that was really
Mhm.
interesting to be able to do that. And then I had a disability symposium that I spoke on in November of that year. And that's what led to the convention a few years ago with a friend of
Oh,
mine
cool.
that I got involved with. But mainly a lot. Oh, and I did get to speak at State College last summer at the Patan. They had a transition conference for people that have disabilities and families. So that was really amazing.
That's awesome. It's honestly, it's just so wonderful to sort of see your determination and your motivation and how you're able to not only travel for yourself but to share your stories. For our listeners who are maybe part of the disability community or have friends and family as part of that community, you mentioned a couple of things like flight ambassador programs and the Sunflower program. What sort of tools or resources are available for people with disabilities who might have a passion to travel, but they might not necessarily know about?
Well, there's a lot of different programs, and that's one of the first things I researched. Not every airport has it, but Pittsburgh International does. It's called the Flight Ambassador Program. So, what a Flight Ambassador will do is they'll help you to navigate the airport and like how to get through TSA, how to go, and if you don't know where the gate is or you don't know where certain things are, they'll walk you through there. They walked me over to the gate, and it's not just for people with disabilities. Celebrities have a flight ambassador too. So that is one of the things that is there. Another really popular one is the Hidden Sunflower. And what that is that's a lanyard. And sunflowers symbolize invisible disabilities. So when somebody has
Okay.
it on, yeah, the idea is that a person will show extra compassion, extra understanding because that person has a disability that they can't see. I also have my flight ambassador help me with talking with the airline about pre-boarding and getting in one of those lines. And that is so important because there was another woman that was on our trip with her son that had Down syndrome, and she didn't know about any of these services. And she, of course, boarded at the end, and the flight, that was a full plane, and nobody would give up their seat so she could sit with her child.
Oh.
And
Oh,
by the end of the
that's
trip,
tough.
that was horrible. But by the end of the trip, she was standing in pre-boarding with me to go home, and she knew about all
Oh,
the services that
Oh,
were
good.
there.
oh, good, good. I feel like these details are so important to know, so then people can be mindful, and also like just
Hmm.
like you're an advocate, well, for yourself and for other people with disabilities. But like, it's so great to have this information, so then we can be like we could be advocates as well. So we can.
Hmm.
I'm just so happy to know this.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. Can you maybe tell us what preparing for a trip looks like for someone with a disability? Obviously, it's different depending on what your disabilities are, but in terms of like planning and logistics and figuring things out, obviously you've talked about navigating the airport, so that's wonderful. But showing up
Hmm.
in a new city can, for anyone, be an overwhelming experience with things like transportation and logistics, accommodation, these sort
Oh
of
yeah.
things. What does travel planning look like for you?
Well, one of the first things is research. I researched the airport. I researched the services available, but I also researched well where we would be going for the conference, where the conference was going to be held. I had the menus of what was going to be served on there. I knew I was very lucky. My friend was already in Florida, so she was able to. Take me and she had a rental car, so we did that. But there was other options like shuttle buses and different kinds of services with public transportation available as well. So that was a big thing too, is that research. And research even went before we even left the house. My husband and I would watch videos on YouTube on different aspects of the airport, like, well, how do you check in at the airport? How do you go to baggage claim? What does the airport look like in Florida? What does the airport look like in for Pittsburgh, if you can find that? And
Mhm.
we went through a lot of those things, and I think that really helped a lot too because I knew what to expect and I had a better idea of that as well.
That's awesome. And
Okay.
can you sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead, Morgan. I
No,
had
no, no.
just have
You
so
go.
many
You go.
questions. I
No,
was
you
just
go.
gonna
Go.
say, Morgan and I talk a lot, and sorry, this isn't even in our flow of
No,
questions that we
it's
had
okay.
previously discussed. But Morgan
It's
and
all
I
right.
talk a lot about um sort of the things that you gain from solo travel, and just how
Mhm.
solo travel for both Morgan and I, we've had moments where we've loved it, we've had moments where we have regretted it, but ultimately you learn so much about yourself, especially through your first solo trip. Can you maybe share with us what you gained from traveling by yourself for the first time?
I think what I gained was confidence because I could do that. Because
Mhm.
I had an opportunity years ago before that, before all these programs existed, and I chose not to because I would have had to have traveled by myself, and it wasn't the right time. But this was the time where I felt I'm going to do this, and it gave me that confidence, that boost that I can do a lot of this stuff. It also gave me gratitude for my husband because he certainly does help me when we travel and points places out to me because I do get lost easily, and um, he helps me with my bags or things. But when I was on that trip by myself, solo, it was up to me to be able to keep. Know where I'm going, read the signs, ask for help, advocate. That those were things I had to be able to do, and just doing that really just boosted that confidence. And it also using those programs that really eased the mind of my parents because I never did this before and I have a disability. So my mom was like, oh, what are you going to do about this? What are you going to worry? And she was so worried. And she even said, I'll worry about you when I'm 100 years old. I may not be here, but I'll still worry about you. And
Oh,
that gave
Mhm.
them the confidence. And then my husband, and that also eased a lot of his fears too. So it was definitely a boost for me with what I could do and competency, but also just gratitude for those around me as well.
Oh, that's beautiful, and I feel like both Bran and I can relate to that. I mean, you kept saying
Hmm.
confidence, and I feel like yeah, a lot of these trips we've done solo, or where we're super out of our comfort zone, or we're trying new things,
Hmm.
or we confidence is like such a lesson, and it's empowering, and it's great to hear it
Hmm.
like echoed throughout people we meet, and through all of our experiences. Okay, so you've mentioned like a few of your trips. I'm curious. I mean, the U.S. is it's such a huge country of so many places to travel. Have you been able to travel outside of the country yet, or where have you?
No, we have not been able to travel outside of the country yet. That is definitely something that I would love to do someday.
Okay, so it's on the bucket list, huh?
Yes, it definitely is.
Well, we support that. That's fun.
Definitely.
Okay.
so exciting that you
Mhm.
have goals to sort of go international. I'm sort of wondering what keeps you motivated to travel and explore, and what are some of your goals moving forward?
One of the things that just really encourages me is just to be able to see what is out there. My husband and I, we really love art museums. We love to go to, we have some favorites that we love to visit, but we also have ones that we want to go to. And gardens are another big thing. There's our standbys that we love, and we always have so many nice memories at. But then there's also some new ones that we're going to. And one of the things I love to do is whenever we go to a new place, I will end up. I'm more the one that'll go, and my husband's a little more relaxed. So I'll usually come up with a bunch of different ideas. I'll research a list of things that I'd like to do. I'll find the gardens, I'll find the restaurants, I'll find the museums, and maybe some other attractions. And I'll make a big list, and we'll get that list down to maybe a few things that I want to do too. Just a few things that I come up with, and or he does too. And we'll just go through the list and we'll figure out, okay, what do we want to do, and what do we want to maybe do later on.
That's awesome. That is beautiful. That's how Morgan and I plan a lot of our our trips as well. And honestly, this
Yeah.
conversation has inspired me to be a little bit
Yeah.
more proactive in my own trip planning. I'm like, I would probably gain a lot from traveling if I did a bit more research before I showed up in some places.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, like having that information and knowing how to navigate is so helpful. Yeah, we definitely need to implement that. Okay, yeah, I really, and I feel like Brianna as well really relate to a lot that you said of being really inspired by art. I feel like art has been such an important part of your life, and
Hmm.
actually, how Brianna and I met is we were both drama theater teachers, so we're
Oh,
advocates of
nice.
art bringing people together. So and then also I feel like nature, how you've mentioned the
Yeah.
gardens and
Yes.
how you stop and take pictures of all the flowers on your walks. Like I feel like nature and art is just one of those things that is so inspiring on in
It, it,
life
it
and in
was,
travels.
yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
Agreed.
so beautiful, and I've seen some of your photos, Michelle. Morgan is also a photographer, and I think that you guys should do a
Um,
little photography exchange when this is over because you both have such beautiful photos.
Oh,
I would
that
love
yeah, I would
that.
love.
That'd be
Me
great.
too. Me too.
I guess sort of just a couple more questions before we wrap things up. I think it's really wonderful that you have shared some of the many resources that are available to people
Hmm.
with disabilities in the travel industry. But I'm just wondering, do you feel like there's more steps that the travel industry could take to be more accessible and inclusive?
I think definitely. I think some of the places, with respect to the architecture, definitely could
Hmm.
be more inclusive for people that have disabilities, especially like physical ones. I mean, I think that's definitely always needs to be on the lookout, especially with the ADA. But I also think people that might have disabilities we can't see may need support. Some places might need like a sensory room, or a lot of art galleries, they have noise canceling headphones that people can go, especially if maybe if you have a crowded place, they can be able to have that. Sensory bags are also another really good thing that they can do that kind of help them when they go through some of those things, just to kind of navigate some of that. So I think it's opening up our eyes to make it accessible for everybody, so everybody has a lot of fun when they go out to these places.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, those are some really great points. And also, so in regards to fellow travelers, like you mentioned, yeah, I
Hmm.
think we could be more open our eyes and be more mindful. Are there
Yeah.
any other thoughts you have
Hmm.
of fellow travelers, how they can be more mindful or
I th- I think it's to be patient. I think that's the big thing too. I know, like if we're going in a subway station and there's a huge thing of stairs, I will probably be the slowest one going down the stairs because I don't want to trip and I don't want to fall, and I'm not trying to make anybody um, late. But I think maybe it's that patience that okay, somebody might have to use that, or if they have an elevator, they might that person might really need to have that. And I think it's just having that
Mhm.
patience, that understanding, and just giving somebody maybe the benefit of the doubt. Or if you see someone with a sunflower lanyard on, okay, maybe that person just might need a smile, or just some understanding and some courtesy. I can remember when I was on the plane, I was also really lucky not only to have great flight attendants that helped me with my seatbelt, but I also had some wonderful ladies that I sat with that I didn't know, but I had one on my way there, and she helped me with my tray, and then she even helped me with getting my drink, and she just talked to me during the flight, and I thought that was really nice. It was that helped to kind of reassure me a little bit. And then on the way home, when our flight was delayed, I had another really nice lady that sat with me and just talked with me during the whole thing, and just was really understanding about everything.
Oh,
oh,
that
I
is wonderful to hear. That is really lovely. We've talked in recent episodes about pleasant encounters we've had with strangers in
Mhm.
airplanes, and it's really it sometimes air travel brings out the worst of humanity, but sometimes it brings out the best.
yes,
Yeah, yes.
and
Hmm.
kindness, it goes a long way. And I think that's a lesson like or just is one of those things that we need to be reminded.
Hmm.
Be kind and understanding and be patient. So, I think those are
Yeah.
fabulous
Exactly.
points.
That's beautiful. Thank you. So, I guess, sort of as we start to wrap things up, I think, Michelle, what is sort of your message or takeaway to anyone that has a disability who's maybe feeling intimidated to travel? What message would you give to someone in that situation?
One of the first things I would tell them is not to be afraid to be able to go out there and explore the world, because life is just too short to let a disability or anything stand in your way. And to also do a lot of research for that too, because and to really encounter a lot of those problems or those situations you might come into. You can't get everything, but you should have an understanding. Okay, I might have difficulty with this, and how can I solve that? What's something we can do to be able to help that? And look for the resources that are out there. There's a lot of other resources too. There's flight ambassadors. There's the Hidden Sunflower. There's also even the wheelchair assist for, well, for anybody can do that if that's what they feel like they might need to go on their plane. Calling the airline, doing all those things, and just seeing what is out there.
Yeah. Well, I'm thankful to learn about these different programs and options for people, and I'm really excited. I hope people who can relate to this episode can also share, because I'm sure if we're hearing about these handful of
Mhm.
really awesome ones, I'm sure there's just so many out there, and so I'll be excited to kind of learn about different opportunities.
Sounds good.
Absolutely. It has been so wonderful to talk to you today. I feel like this has just been such an eye-opening and inspiring conversation. So thank you so much for being here. If people want
Yes.
to connect with you or see your photographs, read your writing, or learn more about traveling with a disability, where can people connect with you on the internet, Michelle?
You can find me at my blog, www.michellesmission.com.
Amazing.
Love
So, everyone, please go and check that out. And we will link you also in all of our socials. Morgan, where can people find us on the internet?
Yes, yes. If you want to find us on the internet, head over to The Global Girlfriend on Insta, TikTok, and also you can check out our website as well at theglobalgirlfriend.com.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Michelle. This has been a wonderful conversation, and we truly hope you get to every single art gallery on your bucket list.
We
Thank you
think
so
you will.
much. It's been a pleasure.
Oh,
Yes.
yes. Thank you for being here today.
All right. Bye, guys. We'll see you next week.
Bye.